Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. And Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back. Hope everybody enjoyed the holidays. Although this is going to be the second episode airing after the beginning of the year, but it's our first time recording after the beginning of the year. So Happy New Year, everybody. Glad everybody's here. Jennifer and I today are joined by the lovely author and politician, Mary Chung Hayashi. This is her book here. It's called Women in Politics, Breaking Down the Barriers to Achieve True Representation. Mary is an award-winning author, national healthcare leader, and former California State Assemblymember. With a distinguished career in public service, Mary has spearheaded substantial reforms in mental health services, championed gender equality, and forged powerful, unprecedented partnerships for social causes that previously had no financial or public backing. Recognized as Legislator of the Year by the American Red Cross and the California Medical Association, Mary has also been featured on Redbook's Mothers and Shakers list and Ladies' Home Journal's Women to Watch. As principal of public policy and advocacy solutions, she has successfully advised business and policy leaders on some of today's most complex public policy matters. Mary remains a steadfast proponent of social justice expansion and the rights of underrepresented communities. And all that, and she still had time to write this amazing book. So, Mary, thank you so much for being with us today. We're very, very excited to talk to you and to talk to you about your book. Welcome to Madness Cafe.
Thank you, Raquel. That was a bio that was written by my people. But thank you for being impressed anyway. And I'm thrilled to join you. And I can't wait to get started with you and Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you. So if that bio was written by your people, we'd love to hear a little bit about you, from you, and how you got so passionate about women in politics.
Exactly. I have kind of an interesting story that's sort of, I talk about it in the book, but that I really like to sort of, bring attention to, and that is, I don't consider myself a professional author, even though this is my second book. I keep wanting to write, and I really don't like writing. And this book, it took me 2 years to do it, to write it and to get editors. And I think it went through 3 to 4 revisions and editing process. It's not fun. I don't enjoy it, but I figured out why I keep doing this to myself and why I'm writing. I came to this country when I was a teenager, and I didn't speak any English. My parents immigrated here from Korea, and that same year, my older sister passed away. She suffered from mental illness in silence, and she passed away. And, we were just sort of like, oh, okay, now we're in a different country, and, just feeling very lost. And my parents were like, well, girls are supposed to go to college long enough to meet a husband and then get married. And that's sort of like your path. My brothers got to go to college, and they paid for their tuition and they supported them, but they wouldn't really support girls. And so I'm from a very traditional conservative family. And I said, well, I still want to go to college. So I did. And I was attending Cal State University, Long Beach. One day I was looking through the, catalogs and found a course under women's studies. And I thought to myself, oh, well, this must be, a class that will help me become a better wife. I thought it was like a home economics type of class. I had no idea what this was. Yeah. And I thought, well, it sounds very intriguing. So I took this class, and it really changed my life. It literally just, I still remember reading about Gloria Steinem, and just like her personal background and becoming a very outspoken feminist, and just learning about how, women could pursue their own path and they could have a career. And so that was very inspiring to me. And so I keep wanting to write because, when I was 19, reading those women literature and women's studies course really changed my life and helped me become who I am. And so I hope that my book will inspire other women and girls to see that you don't have to be controlled by your, ethnicities or family background. You can do whatever you want. And so that's the purpose of this exercise. And so even though I don't consider myself a professional like author, because I don't think I'm a good writer, I keep wanting to write because I really want to inspire other women the way that the women's studies course and the literature, feminist literature, inspired me when I was 19 years old. Yeah, so that's what the book is about, and I'm really proud of the work that I've done, and the interviews are great. I've interviewed 17 women and 1 man for the book, and I've also reviewed close to 100 research literature that's out there about women in politics and women in leadership. So I try to incorporate those stories. And so that's it's one of my goals, is to really inspire women to pursue their own life path.
That's amazing. Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I know you got something, but I want to first say I'm sorry about your sister. I really am.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge that. It's a big deal, and I'm truly sorry about it. The next thing I want to say is thank you so much for writing the book and focusing on women, and reading your story and hearing a little bit more today. I wonder a little bit, what was that like coming to this country? I understand that your parents very quickly gave you new Americanized names. What did that feel like as a young woman?
Well, like growing up in Korea, girls were raised to be, good girls, which means silent girls. You never speak up. You don't talk about your personal problems. You don't talk about yourself, and you get along with everyone. You don't have conflict. You don't ask for anything. Just, that's kind of how we were raised. And so when we came here, and we didn't speak any English, and we moved to Orange County of all places, and there were just very few people of color, and people used to call me Connie because most kids in my school never seen an Asian person other than Connie Chung on television.
Right.
I was so flattered by it. I was like, oh, really? She's so famous and smart. And, I was like really flattered. I mean, I was like 13 years old. So but we hadn't, for me anyway, I had perfected being that invisible good girl. And so I just, I try to blend in and not be a troublemaker, and just kind of keep thoughts to myself, just be quiet. And I was really good at that. So I became this invisible person, like I didn't even exist anymore. We all sort of gave each other like American names because nobody could say our Korean names. And so we were very shamed, like, oh, we should have a different kind of name, like Americanized names, so that we can kind of blend in and fit in. And so it's, we really didn't think much of it. It was like a survival. Let's just do that. That makes a lot of sense. And
Mary,
so
what's your Korean name?
it's Mi Hyung.
Mi Young.
Mi Young.
It's
That's
beautiful.
not hard. It's a beautiful name.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think times have changed now,
Yes, of course.
Yeah. But we just didn't want to stand out. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want to just kind of be not seen.
Yeah.
So that was growing up in Orange County and just trying to fit in and learn the language. And I, because I was so good at just not saying anything, nobody really knew that I was struggling with classes, or like nobody knew anything. Like they probably didn't even know I was there. So after like a semester, I think I finally got, the school finally got someone for me to enroll in an ESL class. And there was a Korean boy who went to the same junior high with me, and he was bilingual, and he helped translate, because I was just like so frustrated.
Yeah, of course you were.
And this is like a bad stereotype for me to talk about, but like I was really good at math. And that was like one class where like I didn't need any help, because like math is universal.
Well, yeah, numbers are numbers in any language.
Yeah,
So.
but it was like this class where the teacher said, well, like, Mary, why don't you come up and explain this problem, like how you solved it? And I couldn't explain it. And that's when I started to cry, and they're like, oh my God, what happened to you? So that was just one of the stories, one of the many stories.
It's like no wonder you have these books inside of you to talk about, because you have so much to say.
Well, while I was interviewing these women for the book, and I always thought that losing my sister when I was really young, an older sister who I was very close to, but I didn't know that she was suffering from, mental problems. I mean, how would you? Because we were trained to like never to talk about anything. And so and then I spent my entire professional career dedicated to advancing mental health systems. I mean, I've done campaigns, mental health campaigns. I was a commissioner for the whole state, mental health commission for the state. I've done so much work in that space because of my sister passing away. And when I was interviewing these women for the book, everyone had stories like that, where they were their personal journeys were dramatically changed because of something that had happened to them or their family member or someone that they cared about. So thank you for acknowledging that, but I also, at the same time, I feel like there's just so many examples, women in my book in particular have overcome just incredible barriers, and and became just amazing leaders, women leaders. And that's what I wanted to showcase, because one of the things that I love talking about is this imagination barrier.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, like the political scientists call that a role modeling effect. You can't be what you can't see.
Right.
I'm from Korea, and I came here, and I don't know, I didn't know that women can go to law school, become a lawyer, until I came here, because I saw that they were doing that. And so role modeling effect is really important. And one of the women that I interviewed, Amanda Hunter, who is the head of the Barbara Lee Family Foundation, they did this focus group and asked the participants to imagine a governor, and most of them imagined a white male.
Yeah,
that's important to acknowledge, because as more women run for office, like the Michigan governor we were talking about earlier,
now we can envision when somebody asks that question, we can see Gretchen Whitmer.
Yes. Exactly. So it takes courage, because it's not easy when women announce for public office. You almost start like a deficit, because voters are often suspicious of our motivation, because the whole gender bias thing is like, oh, we're supposed to be coalition builders, and we're supposed to not brag about our accomplishments. We're supposed to not take credit for the work that we do. We're not supposed to be assertive. We have to get along with everyone, and so
we have to be the peacemakers.
When you show ambition, and when you announce for political office, especially, you show that you're ambitious, you want to be a leader, you're assertive, people people get sort of suspicious of our motivation. Like, why is she doing that? Because of the gender bias and the imagination barrier people have about what women should be or should be like. And for Asian women like me, a lot of people in Sacramento, for instance, after I won, they just didn't know how to deal with me because they were like, oh, she's very aggressive. And it's like, and in my mind, I'm like, I don't think I'm aggressive at all. But they've never dealt with like Asian women as peers, like their colleagues before. So their imagination barrier also was sort of playing into this. And it was hard. It was really difficult to not get penalized for being different, just being me.
Yeah.
Because of the stereotypes they had, in their minds about what an Asian woman should be.
Yeah, totally could
Well,
see that.
Well, and that's why it's so important to have, your books that you read in your women's studies course in college, other books that are written by women that showcase something different, that showcase that these things can be accomplished, that being a woman and being ambitious aren't necessarily bad things. Like, you can imagine these things, you can do these things. Here are examples, right?
Representation.
So, representation, exactly. So that's what your book is doing, Mary, you're doing for younger generations now what other writers did for you. So it's like you're paying it forward, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that kind of made me think, and you mentioned quite a few women in your book, but these are women generally, at least my reading of it, women who are already really established and are, accomplishing things. Are there any up and coming women in, whether or not it's politics or community activism, or any young women in those spaces that are coming up and starting to make a name for themselves and starting to make some inroads that you kind of have your eye on?
I try to include a very diverse group of women in my book. Obviously they don't represent all women, but I really didn't want to do another book about some like famous women politicians, because I love Nancy Pelosi. She helped me so much. When I was like 26 years old and started a nonprofit organization, I didn't know what I was doing. Just thinking back, I'm like, dear Lord, and I would just like write. I remember like I would just like write to Nancy Pelosi's office, and I was like, I would like to meet with you because I need you to do something about, Centers for Disease Control Prevention not collecting data on Asian American and mental health. And she would be like, yes, I'll meet with you. And I was like, what? So I had incredible support from these women, that very powerful women who wanted, who were willing to help me. And so, so I'm a huge fan. And when I read Nancy Pelosi's book, she has a very different background than somebody like me or a lot of the women in my book. She came from money. She had good education. She had incredibly supportive family. Like my parents were not supportive. I mean, can you imagine me asking money from strangers for a campaign? I mean, they're probably like, what did we do wrong with this child? Because that was like a big no. You don't ask for money. Like,
right.
I'm gonna ask how much I'm gonna make when I interview for jobs, And so I really wanted the book to be relevant to real people. And so there are a couple of examples in the book, but I loved interviewing Redwood City former mayor Gazelle Hale, because she ran for state assembly and she actually won. She made the runoff in the primary. It's a top two, and then you go to November election. But she decided, even though she won the runoff, she decided not to move forward because the negative campaigning was really impacting her kids and her husband.
Wow.
And she just decided it just wasn't worth it. And, I'm not going to have my family be part of something that they didn't even sign up for.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's incredibly difficult decision, especially like if you lost, that's one thing, but then you win and you still decide not to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so I interviewed her, and I really hope that, she'll run again, when she feels that the time is right, but for women candidates, the decision-making process and the things that we go through are very different, in real life. When do you ever see a man, or especially a presidential candidate, saying, even though I'm winning, I'm gonna stop now because my children needs me. You know what I mean? It's just something that you only hear from women.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I found that to be true in the business world as well. In my own career, there was a point where, based on the travel needs of the job that I wanted and got, I had to not accept. Well, I chose to not accept for the needs of my children.
Right.
That begs the question, can women with children really be in politics and be successful? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so that's really interesting, because I have a whole chapter on that question. And just, just to kind of circle back to Raquel's, inquiry earlier about like younger women, it is exciting for me to see so many women candidates. When I talked to Emily's List, they said that the application for training like increased by more than 100% in the recent years. Like there's so much interest. People say it's Trump. I actually think it's because of Hillary Clinton. Because people see that women can do it too, right? After she was nominee, we had many women candidates running for president. So Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar. I mean, we had so many women come forward. So I actually like to credit Hillary Clinton and all the women out there running for office, and despite all these negativities, like they move forward and they do it with such integrity. And I think that's what inspires young women to run. So in addition to Gazelle Hale in my book, the other person that I talk about, I didn't interview her. She's a Republican, but she's an up and comer. I mean, I don't support any of her policies, let me say that. But she is sort of fighting the Good Old Boys Network in Washington, D.C. And I find, and I find that kind of refreshing with the Republicans. And so I think they are, women who are wanting to go out and recruit and, find young women both within the Democratic Party, but also in the Republican Party. I think that's happening more with the Republicans, younger Republican women. So, I mean, I think things will change, and I think that parity will happen at some point. Obviously not today, because we're still like we got a long ways to go.
We got a long way to go.
Well, just in California, for example, there's been 4,497 state legislators that served. Out of 4,497, only 192 have been women.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah,
That's
so
bad.
just think
So
about that.
low.
Yeah,
It's so low.
So we got a long ways to go. So just saying, even though it feels like there's a lot of women candidates running and more women are serving than ever before, but we're not there yet. So getting back to
I will be happy until there's a full female ticket. Just saying. Like,
yeah. That would
woman
be nice.
presidential candidate with a woman vice presidential candidate with her. That's
Michigan
I will
had
be
a
having on to
full
that.
female ticket. Gretchen Whitmer's ticket is full female.
Yes. Oh, maybe I need to move back to Michigan. Oh.
That's so interesting for a state like Michigan too, In
Actually, I take
California-
that back. I take that back. There is one man.
Okay.
There is.
Well,
Okay.
we'll allow it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Lieutenant Governor.
He's a diversity hire. We'll allow it.
Yeah, he's still awesome. He's still awesome. I didn't mean to call him a full ticket. I apologize, everyone.
Well, you can edit that part out.
Yeah, nah, we'll let it go.
Okay.
We'll let it go.
Understand.
No, we'll let it go.
So I want to get back to Jennifer's question about this motherhood, because
Yeah, it's a big
I
question.
talk about, I mean, you were saying earlier about you when you make a decision about what kind of job you want to take or what you want to do career wise, you have to consider your family. And this is really this is really true in politics too, like where women start their own business because they want to have the flexibility in their schedule to kind of cater to their kids and their family. Whereas men start their own business because they want to be their own CEO. They want to be a leader. They want to make more money. They want more power, whatever.
Yep.
So
Yep.
women and men sort of have different sort of process when they pursue jobs and careers. Same thing with politics, because men tend to run. Research shown this that they tend to run because they're seeking a leadership position. They want to be a leader, whereas women run because they want to solve a problem. They have a personal mission and they want to fix something. They want to work on something. There's a state legislator here, Senator Pat Bates, who started running for city council many years ago, decades ago, because she just wanted a stop sign in front of her home. And she thought it was very dangerous not to have a stop sign. And so that sort of civic advocacy, experience led her to running for assembly and state senate. And she was formerly a leader of the Republican caucus in the Senate. So women tend to do things for different reasons. And that's why I really wanted to write the book, because I think a lot of us approach, not just in politics, and I want to talk about this qualification gap, but also in business. Women sort of approach things with like, oh, I don't have that experience, I better not apply for that job. Oh, I don't check every single box under that qualification required section. Whereas like if men qualify 60%, they'll apply. But women, even when they're like 100%, they approach things with what we lack. Oh, I don't have that. I don't have that experience. And I think it's very true, not just in business, but in politics. And that's why we don't have as many women running as men, because, the way we view ourselves and the way we, see our own qualifications, very different lens. Like, oh, I don't have that experience and I shouldn't be running for this because I haven't done a city council yet, or I shouldn't run for a state yet because I haven't done the local yet, and so we need to sort of rethink that and talk about what we bring to the table. Often we start out with what we lack, and I think that's a bad place for us. We need to stop doing that.
Well, yes, true. I do agree with you on that point. What comes up for me, and I thought about this too when you talked about this in your book, there are plenty of women who are ambitious, but women who are ambitious get painted with the same brush and sort of all looped in with all women are caretakers and all women want to just solve the world's problems. But there are plenty of women who also want to be leaders and are ambitious and who want to do things differently, but they're penalized for that. They're penalized for being ambitious, whereas a man is not penalized for being ambitious. And so
because they're expected to be ambitious.
Well, who in this room who's been called aggressive, raise their hand?
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
absolutely.
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a man wouldn't.
Happy. Yeah. I was just happy to be called aggressive because I've been called so many other things.
Right.
Yeah. And you brought up in your book a little bit too about women who don't have children who run. Like there's that.
Well, it gets turned then, because if they don't have children, what's wrong with them?
Right, exactly. And if they're ambitious and they're running for leadership reasons. Why aren't you running on issues regarding the family? And why are you, what?
Right.
You know, there's more to being
A woman.
to being a woman, yeah, and to being a woman who wants to make a difference than just let me think about what my uterus can do.
Right.
Or what I need for my children.
Exactly.
Or what I need for my family.
Right. Like, can't a woman
So
just want
voters,
power and be a leader?
well, so when you have small children and you are running for office, then voters wonder, like, will you have time to do
Yeah.
both?
Exactly.
Yeah, or like,
And
will
they
you,
never
are you
ask
going to
men
be
that.
dedicated to the job, and are you going to be able to balance the role, two different roles? Of course, I don't think that about men. You know,
No,
men
Right.
have,
never,
like
ever.
10 kids, and like nobody's going to ask, like, oh, are you going to be home for, you know,
Yeah.
to make dinner or whatever. But if you don't have kids, then the voters wonder, oh, I wonder if she understands what the needs of families are. So, and this
Yeah.
is not just men who think that, women think that. Women judge
Yeah.
women too. One of the
I was
women
just-
I didn't interview but mentioned in the book is Congresswoman Grace Meng. She took her kids to some event on a Saturday, and a woman asked her, like, I didn't vote for you so you could be a babysitter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If it was a man, I'm sure they would have said, wow, what a great role model.
Right. They would have
Yeah.
congratulated him. He's such a good dad.
He's a family man.
He's so
He's
good.
taking care of his babies.
So on page 119 in your book, you say
Yeah.
many studies have shown that women are just as likely to express disapproval about female leaders as men. So women are bashing women just as much as men are bashing women, politicians.
Yeah.
Yes. Unfortunately, women have bias too. You know, we
Yeah.
all do. And it's something that all of us need to work on. I mean, I don't want to put everything on like on individual level
For sure.
responsibility, but because there's this institutional problems too and barriers. I mean, you know, sexism and racism, and I mean, women have not held.
Oh, yeah.
We you know, we've been shut out of like wealth and, you know, money and power for a long time. So it's, you know, I'm not trying to say that like it's the individuals who, you know, need to change, but all of us have bias. And I think we need to realize what we're doing without really realizing what we're doing. I mean, I was trained to be a good girl. Don't talk, don't say anything, don't talk about problems. You know, I've broken all of those rules. But to this day, even now, like I'll be in a meeting or something and I want to speak, I want to say something, but I'll check. Like I'll be like, I'll ask myself, is this important? Do you really need to say this?
Me
Do you need
too.
to say it? So I still have that, you know, and it's just, it's very difficult, you know, when you were like trained that way when you were little.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, you do talk about that being part of your Korean heritage, but honestly, I mean, that's a huge thing generally for women, not just in Korean culture, but I mean, we're all, just societally, we're, you know, kind of pushed to be the good girls, to be pleasing, to be pleasant, to be,
Pretty.
you know, to be pretty, to be the caretakers, to put everybody's needs above our own. I mean, we're all in that. And
Yeah.
it's, we're still trying to shake that off as a society and as women in general, and that's going to take time.
Yes,
So.
yes. When I was running for state assembly, like I reached out to my local Democratic Party chairwoman, you know, was a woman at the time, and I thought I had everything all figured out. I had secured, you know, Tipper Gore's endorsement. I raised $100,000. I had all these big names backing me. I had all this experience. I mean, I thought I was all that. And
Yeah.
I reached
Well, it's
out
all
to
very
her.
impressive.
No, so we met, and she says to me, she's like, you know what you should do is you should run for something small first. Like, you're not ready. And you should run for, have you thought about running for hospital board or city council? And, and I asked her, like, well, are you asking my male opponent the same question? Because he's never ran for office either. And she didn't say anything, so obviously no, but I just did it anyway. I'm like, I'm just
Good
gonna
for you.
go forward. And I think that's sort of is required now. Yes, people are gonna have these biases. There's a qualification gap, there's an ambition gap, there's a likability double standard.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's we have to be likable in order to win.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you're qualified, you don't have to be likable to get votes.
Yeah.
So we have like women, it's very hard for women to win, but people do it and they overcome these barriers and they move forward. And that's what I want to show through the book. And Jennifer, I'm so glad you read that section, because one of the reasons why I interviewed a man is because they also suffer from this imagination barrier, meaning
Sure.
they can't be what they can't see. And just like women, and Kamala Harris's husband, for example, he looks so happy being in that supportive role. Like, he's a white man supporting a woman of color vice president, and he just loves that job. And I think that's so important for men to see.
Yes, agreed.
Remember when Sarah Palin ran?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Everybody was just so hard on the husband, and
Yeah, they made fun of him.
and made fun of him, and
Yeah.
so who would want to be that? Who would want to be
Yep.
a supportive guy, right? So
That's a very
so
valid point. Very
I
valid
think
point.
men definitely need to see more of, like, our second gentleman role models.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Good
and
point.
women also, just like the women needs role models, they do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so what are the next steps? Like, what do we do to get more women involved in politics and in running for different offices, not just running for president, but for, all the other, positions that put them in a place to affect change? Like, what do we do to get more women involved?
Yeah. So, when I ran, like, organizations like Emerge didn't exist. I mean, it was just starting up. And I know the founder, Andrea, who is here in San Francisco, she was like, what about if we help, like, provide training to women who wanted to run for office? And it's like, what a great idea. And they're like in 20 some states now, very powerful, influential, and trained thousands of women. Emily's List has also figured out that they started as an organization to support US Senate candidates, but now they are recruiting and backing women who are running for school board, because they need to start somewhere. And
Right.
most of them aren't going to just wake up and say, well, I'm going to run for US Senate. They're going to come from the state legislature. Well, what do they come from? Well, local government, school board. And so a lot of these organizations have done a great job in recent years, like reaching out and recruiting and training these young women to help them prepare. And I think that's what's needed. But and this isn't just because of my own personal experience, but I really feel like the Democratic Party leadership needs to make a concerted effort to recruit, because my book and the studies of interviews and the research provide clear evidence that most women will run for office if they're asked. You just have to ask them, for God's sakes. Really, that's all it takes.
Wow.
And so we need a more systematic way of recruiting women and backing them. So we have the training, and we have we have these great organizations out there that provide support to women who are interested. That's great, because I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. When I ran the first time, oh my gosh, when I think about that, back then we had dial-up internet. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Like there was like no social media or anything. And you literally, I mean, you had to call people on the phone. Like you don't text people,
Yeah.
call them and ask for money. And
Mhm.
I've never seen them or met them, but you call them and you introduce yourself and you try to get money. And most of them
Yeah.
are men who have money. So I mean, it was just a really tough process. And I think a lot of things have gotten better because we have social media.
Mhm.
And you know, I don't like social media. It could be a dark place, but it has provided a sort of a way for women to be competitive without spending a lot of money. They can get their
Mhm.
message out if they have a lot of followers. And so I feel like, you know, a lot has changed and we're in a much better place to do recruitment, but the Democratic Party needs to do a better job, I think.
Agreed.
Mhm. Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
have a
agreed.
lot of just kind of a
Yeah.
pent up anger towards them sometimes because it's like, no, you know, you can't just give lip service. You actually
Right.
have to go find people and stop discouraging women of color from running, because
Yeah.
studies have shown that women of color experience more discouraging words.
Yay.
Yeah,
Yay.
yeah. So I mean,
I
Yeah.
think that's a reflection of society as
Yeah.
a whole. We have all these DEI initiatives, and yet in most companies, it seems like it's lip service and it's
Yep.
not really embraced.
Mhm.
Maybe it's embraced by the employees. Maybe people are trying to do some things, but if it's not embraced by the top leadership, it never filters or trickles or works within the organization, and politics is no different.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. You know what? So I think I've thought about this before, but I've never really asked anybody. There's all this talk about how expensive it is to run for office, any office at all. Is it just the marketing and the ads? Why is it so expensive to run for office?
Great
Like,
question.
I mean, that's not your expertise.
Right.
I know, Mary. It's probably a very unfair question for you, but because that's one thing that comes up that keeps a lot of women of color
It's
from running
intimidating.
for offices. A, it's very intimidating, and
Yeah.
B, you hear all the time, well, so and so spent $8 billion on their campaign, or or you hear
Right.
about Bloomberg who spent $109 of his
Right.
own money, and I'm like, I do not have $109
Yeah.
million to spend on shit.
Really?
Let alone, yeah, I know, right? Let alone for a damn campaign that I'm
Right.
probably not going to win. Like, what the hell?
It's a great
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Yes. So it's very frustrating because you know when you're a candidate, you think the same thing, like, well, why do I need all that money, you know? But
Yeah,
yes, campaign consulting, you have to hire a campaign consultant. I mean, it depends on what you're running for.
right.
If you're doing like a city council race and it's a relatively small city, then you're not going to need to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you're thinking about a state legislative race in California, it's going to be minimum $2 million.
Oh
But
my God.
if you're thinking about a state legislative race like in Georgia, it's not going to be that expensive because it's much smaller. California
Yeah.
has 40 million people, so the one state Senate district is 1 million people. The state district is bigger than a congressional district. So it really depends. If you go to Utah or Wyoming, and the state assembly seats only have 15,000 people, that means I don't think you're going to need more than like $30,000 max. So it really depends where
That's
you're running.
that's
I
still a
know.
pretty penny for somebody who doesn't have 30K, right? I mean, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I don't, no offense to Utah and Wyoming, but I don't want to move to
Yeah.
those places. I'll go to Utah and go skiing maybe, but I don't want to move to these places, and I'm pretty sure they wouldn't necessarily be
I know
that
we
great for
shouldn't
me
pick
to
on
live in.
them, but I was
But
just there. So, but anyway,
yeah,
so
but
why is
it's
it
just,
expensive? Because
yeah,
yes, it's
crazy.
mostly communication, mostly
Mm.
ads, getting your message out. Because let's say, Jennifer has this brilliant idea, like, oh, I want to go to the legislature so that I can fix the campaign finance system. I want publicly financed campaigns, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
you got to get that
that's it.
message out. How are you going to do that?
I
our
don't know.
podcast.
Money. Well, you can't walk door to door unless it's like 50 people. I mean, it's so it just so yes, a lot
Yeah.
of communication. But I have a whole chapter on fundraising because I try to provide some context for women. Like I know it seems overwhelming, but it's really not. If I can do it, think about it. I'm from Korea. I didn't even speak English, and you know what? I was not, I was raised not to ever ask for money, even in a job interview. You know, did you know, like my first job, I didn't even ask how much I was going to get paid because it was just something that
Wow.
I wasn't allowed to do. And
Right.
so if I can do it, like any woman can do it. I mean, that's the point. But just to kind of provide some context, I mean, there are more CEO named John in Fortune 500 companies than women CEOs. Okay, so women have been left out of this sort of system for a long time.
Yep.
And so no, most of us don't have that ability to write a check and just fund the campaign like Bloomberg or whatever. And I worked on Karen Bass for Mayor's campaign, which is in my book. She's the first woman mayor of Los Angeles, first Black woman, obviously, to
I love her.
be the mayor. And she was the Speaker of the Assembly when I was in the Legislature. You know, she told me, she's like, if I don't win this, I can't make the mortgage on my house. Like, she has no personal wealth. And her, guess who her opponent was? Mr. Rick Caruso, very charming, charismatic, multi-billionaire developer. And he, like, we see the finance report, and he would just like write $500,000 check from himself to the campaign. He spent, I think it was a new record, close to like 100 million. And Karen, Karen has no money and no money, and the limit per person that I can give to her is $1,500. And we raised $8 million, and then we beat him by 7 points.
Wow,
So
that's impressive.
So what I want to tell people is that if Karen can do it, you can do it too. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, it's hard when you it's much easier because he's not out there doing fundraisers, whereas we have to hustle and work twice as hard. We have to find time to prep for the debates, and we also have to show up at all these events. Like, she has to do a lot more to raise that money at $1,500 per person. But we raised $8 million. We're very proud of that. We beat them. I mean, almost $100 million was spent. And I just kind of think to myself, wow, if I had that kind of money, I would try to do something good. But different, I guess. And he has more money. I mean, that's the thing. He's got more. It doesn't even phase him. Yes, it seems like a lot. And people say, well, but 8 million sounds like a lot of money. And it's like, it's Karen Bass, and that's how she did it. And it's like, that's not true. That's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, she made calls. We had massive organization. We had to raise money nationally because at $1,500 per person, we run out of donors. Most of our donors were $50 to $100 level, individual donors. But she had to go to Chicago. She had to go to Atlanta, Georgia. She had to go to Washington. She had to go to New York and find new donors. So it was like we had to set up like a national team, but no, you can do it. You can do it.
Well, but that actually, I kind of, in a kind of a weird, twisted way, I kind of appreciate that she made the inroads to have to go to other states to get support, partly because it shows that all of our states are just interconnected, right? Like, what happens in California has an effect on what's going to happen in the federal government, which is in turn going to have an effect on what's going to happen here in Georgia, right? So yeah, support candidates that you like in other states, right? I get that. That totally makes sense to me. B, shows that she really, really, really wanted the job, right?
Yes.
And she put the work in. And it sucks that she had to jump through extra hurdles that the other guy did, that Caruso didn't have to jump through, but she proved she really wanted that, right? And so I think that the positive takeaway for that situation is that she put in the work. She works really hard because she wants that job, and she's got national support, right?
Yes.
So she's got all of that backing her going into that position.
Do you know something like if you guys are thinking about running for office, or if there's a listener who's thinking about it, do you know what happens in a campaign? I would say, if I make 10 phone calls for money and support, endorsement money. I mean, that's what you're doing. Like, you're trying to get endorsement, you're trying to get money. If I make 10 calls, 9 people are probably going to say no or not return my calls.
Oh, yeah.
If that one person calls back and helps you, that's just huge. And you just get such momentum and boost from that. And I know people are probably thinking, what, you only get one call like per 10 calls? That's not very encouraging. But what happens is, I mean, that's just the beginning. Like, in the beginning, it's really hard, but there's like momentum, you'll know, like, if you have to have good message and good purpose. Obviously, you can't just like, I want to run for office because I'm really bored and I want to get out of the house. I mean, that's not going to work. But if you got a mission, I mean, if you got a good message, and if you really have put together a good campaign with good messaging and have the skill sets, and you're presentable, all of that, you can do it. People will notice you, and they will call you and say, well, I want to be part of this campaign. How can I help? And so it does transition, from the, 9 people rejected me today, to 30 days out. Like, you have people calling you, wanting to volunteer, wanting to donate, and you didn't even call them. It does happen. There's this like momentum. So it does sound like you're saying, like, well, why is it so expensive? And why do you need money for? And yes, I mean, those seem like a barrier, but it's really a false barrier, Raquel.
That's good to know.
You could do it.
That's good to know. Thank you for being such a light and a source of knowledge to get women involved in politics.
Oh,
whatever way they choose to get involved. We just need more women paying attention, asking questions, and hopefully some choosing to run and winning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, every time I read an excerpt from my book at a book party, I have young people coming up to me saying, I'm going to do it. I'm going to run based on what you said today. Like, so I get really good feedback. And so I hope people read the book, and you don't have to run to change the world, because some of the women I interviewed, they're doing nonprofit work, amazing work. There's just so many different ways to give. But what I don't want women to do is stop there just because of these imagination barriers we have,
Yes.
You are qualified, you are ready, and you are 100% or should be ambitious about your own career. I mean, so, and that's okay. That's good. So thank you. This was so much fun. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Oh,
thank you.
You're so very welcome. And, thank you for doing what you can to encourage more women to get involved in politics on every level, not just at the presidential level or congressional level. Start small, just get involved. So thank you for the encouragement that you are putting out there through your book and through your everyday dealings with people. So that is very much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm gonna sign off. Let you guys talk
Recap.
about critique me.
We're not going to critique you.
Oh, it was It was great to be part of your day. And thank you again
you.
for this opportunity. I'm really honored to meet you and look forward to
Same.
reconnecting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same. Thank you so much, Mary. I'm always encouraged by people who go beyond just what they've done, that they want to get other people involved in something, right? Like she could have just stopped at her what she's accomplished, right? She could have just stopped there.
Yeah.
But she wants more women to get involved. She wants more women to get into politics. And she's doing what she can to encourage women and to let them know, like, hey, this is some of the shit you're gonna have to deal with. Just want you to know it's out there.
And you can do it.
And you can do it, but don't want you to go in with like, rose-colored glasses. Like, there's some shit out there that you're gonna have to deal with, but you can deal with it. And this is, here's a way. Get out there, get into it, right? Get into the arena.
Perfect segue. What I wanted to read as my part of the closing today is on page 25 of her book, Cumulative Effects Create Change. It's so easy to underestimate the act of speaking up, of giving a voice to the voiceless in small ways. It's easy to dismiss it or say it isn't worth it, especially when such actions take bravery and perseverance. But each act of speaking up adds to the conversation until a ripple becomes a wave that becomes a storm, and the world is forever altered. And her work, a ripple, a wave, a storm.
Yeah.
Pretty freaking amazing. We do need more women in politics.
Absolutely. And not just women of a certain age. Younger women, get involved. Like Mary brings up Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's in there. Yes, she's not a typical politician, but you know what? She saw a need. She had a desire to make a change or ambition, whatever you want to call it, and she is getting shit done. There's room for all of us, and there's a place where all of us can make a difference, whether it's running for Congress or running for the school board, or as that chairwoman said to Mary, hospital board. Okay, that's cool. Wherever you see a need, get in where you can fit in and make a difference. Do what you can to help.
Thanks, Raquel.
Thank you, Jennifer. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for listening today. We will be back with more Madness Cafe next week. You can find us on Instagram at Madness Cafe Podcast or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com. Bye.